Am I the a-hole for flipping out on my fiance for canceling all the vegan food options from our wedding food menu behind my back? Original post. My fiance, 31 male, and I, 25 female, are getting married soon. There wasn't much that was disagreed on during the wedding planning, except for the food. Me and my family are vegans, and there are so many reasons why we chose this lifestyle, and one of them being that we have a history of health issues. My fiancé and his family are the complete opposite. They're hardcore meat eaters, which is fine by me, obviously. However, when deciding on the wedding food menu, I wanted to add 4 to 5 vegan options. My fiancé and his mom objected, saying it was a waste of money over food that isn't real food. They also argued that this would be offensive for their guests and suggested my vegan options just be the good old salads and appetizers. His mom wanted cupcakes, lol. I said no because 1, it's me and my family who's paying, and 2, I want to make my guests feel welcome and not be treated as second-class citizens by being served salad. My fiancé made a face and said, "Isn't that what vegans eat?" I refused to argue about it and said it was final. The other day I found out that he had canceled all the vegan options and took them off the menu completely, and behind my back. I was seething. I called him at work, but he kept on hanging up on me. I went straight to his workplace and confronted him there and just flipped out on him. He was stunned to see me. At first, he said that it was his mom's idea, then told me to go home because I was making a scene at the office. The fight continued at home, and he defended himself by saying that I sort of made him resort to doing this after I kept brushing off his thoughts and input, and refusing to accommodate his family. But there were plenty of meat options. Why can't I get 4 to 5 vegan options when I'm paying for it? He yelled that it was his wedding too, not my family's. My family said it was fine and they'll figure it out and told me to let it go, but I refused. Am I the a-hole for putting my foot down on this? And now for the top of comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, and for the love of God, don't marry this man. I'm on my knees begging her to see the giant. Yes, marinara flags all over. Good thing they are vegan. I mean, it's like they're militantly meat-focused. My family and I all love meat. We come from a large Texan family after all, but we're never refused to accommodate a guest. And plenty of the stuff we make for ourselves was already vegan before we ever even worried about it. And now for the updates. Update 1. So his mom messaged me earlier to try to get me to listen to what she had to say after I kept ignoring her phone calls. She spent long walls of text just to address what I did at her son's workplace, calling it all kinds of stuff from immature to unhinged. She then went on to explain how she's noticed that me and my family kept acting dismissive of her son's input and contributions to the wedding. She said that she noticed my behavior towards him and her entire family and wanted to speak up earlier but didn't, and tried to keep the peace. She then went on to address the food menu issue and denied her involvement in the cancellation of the vegan option, but that didn't mean that she doesn't support her son's decision. Moreover, she thought it was so responsible of him to make that move because of my continual refusal to see how the stuff is a waste of money. She also pointed out how I kept saying I paid for it and said that technically, this isn't just my money. It's mine and his because we're getting married. She suggested I wisen up and get rid of my money, I paid for it mentality. She finally mentioned how bad this whole situation is and making me look, and said that she and her son had already offered a number of compromises that I chose to brush off and decided to make it my weird hill to die on. She said that not only is her son upset, but she and the family are as well after hearing about it, and suggested I just agree on their compromise and be done with it. This pissed me off beyond belief. I responded by letting her know that I'm still standing on my ground on this, even if I'll have to call the whole wedding off because of it, because honestly, this is just ridiculous, it is. My mom and dad, they don't even know what to say anymore. Apparently my fiancé saw my response to her, he's with her, and is now trying to call me, but right now I'm waiting on him to get home and see if he's still insisting on the stance he took. I'll update if there's anything worth adding after we talk. Update 2. So the talk didn't go well. I waited for him to come home so we could have a final conversation about it, but he still insisted on his stance. For more details, his family are a bit on the heavy side. Most of them are obese. Nothing wrong with that. They're perfectly within their right to decide how to live, but they get easily offended at the mention of the words weight and food. I tried so hard to focus on the issue at hand, but I noticed there was a pattern of this behavior. He said it wasn't true, that it was just an attempt for me to throw past conflicts at him in order to win the current one. He claimed he tried to reason with me about why and how his guests might see those vegan options as offensive. Also said that his family loved food and consider it a big deal, and how he didn't want his family to feel like there's certain options that they couldn't touch and feel that there's a difference in how I treated them versus how I treated my family. He then went on to explain that it's just an event and how my family should just accept what's on the menu, and if they felt inconvenienced, so what? It's just a one-time thing. They're not going to die if they had a salad and appetizers. What he said wasn't good enough reason for me, cause his folks are going to think and say what they want. But at the end of the day, it's my wedding, and to be honest, realizing that my partner himself thinks it's okay to steamroll my opinions and decisions simply because he's prioritizing others and their opinions over me was really upsetting and not something that could be looked past. Normally, I'm a person of rational discussions and compromises. I'm all about compromises. I'd compromise on much bigger matters than just food, but like people said, it's not about the food anymore. If it ever was, like he literally loses nothing if he let me have what I wanted, but apparently he was willing to lose it all over this, which is fine by me. I gave him back the ring and called everything off. I just couldn't envision myself living like this any longer, having to walk on eggshells for his family and letting him basically override my opinions and have the final say no matter what. Marriage is about compromise, and here he has nothing to lose, yet chose to do this to me and my family. Mind you, this is my first serious relationship, and I didn't know what to expect. But it's safe to say that he and his mom and family did make it feel like I was taking crazy pills on many occasions, so that's that. Last thing he said was that I chose my family over him and ended everything between for the sake of keeping them happy. Decision's been made and it's done. Just wanted to give an update to those who wanted it. Thank you so much for your endless stream of advice and support. Now for some comments. Good for you. Marriage is about compromise, and it doesn't sound like your ex is interested in compromising or even letting you have a say in things. That isn't a partnership. Thank you, and you're right, honestly. I felt kind of hesitant about posting an update. In fact, I was hesitant about posting my situation as a whole. Normally, I'm not the type to share my private business online, but I was so desperate. Like I said, there were times where his family made me feel like I was taking crazy pills. Honestly, and I'm gonna say this anyway, I hate them. They always made me feel like an outsider and a stranger. Never really warmed up to me and instead pretended to like me, but it was obvious they resented me. They claim that I'm a covert fat phobic, but in reality, I got mocked along with my family for being underweight due to health issues I'd mentioned before. Don't even get me started on ex-future mother-in-law, though I feel as though I gotta let it all out and vent. I got married to my first boyfriend, so no judgment here. When you don't have much experience, it can be easy to rationalize or gloss over someone not treating you well. I'm just happy you realize who he really was before you married him. I stayed with my guy for 6 years and 2 suicide attempts before I worked up the courage to end things with him. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for explaining to a man who refuses to mind his own business what happens in graphic detail? What happens if I drink regular cow's milk in my latte? I had some tests to have ran at my local hospital today, and the hospital is a coffee place. It isn't Starbucks, but it's a local place that has a few locations in my area. When I was all done with my medical stuff, I decided to treat myself to a coffee. I got in a long line behind a man that I noticed kept muttering about something, and I noticed every time someone in front of him ordered a coffee with some sort of plant milk, he would mutter louder. Finally, he was up to order. He looked around and loudly said, "I want a regular drip coffee with real milk, not this frou-frou BS everyone drinks these days." The barista rolled her eyes and got his coffee. He was standing near by messing with his drink or something. I ordered a latte with oat milk. I was kind of waiting for him to say something, but I wasn't officially instigating because I always get oat milk. The guy looks at me and says, "You know that's not milk, right?" And I said, "I know." He then says, "It won't kill you to drink regular milk, right? It's good for you." Now here's where I might be the a-hole. I said, "Yeah, it won't kill me, but I don't want a Hershey squirt all the way home. I don't want to shit myself from now until there's nothing left in my stomach. So if you don't mind, I will take my oat milk latte and not shit myself, thanks." The guy threw his coffee away and left. The barista was in shock. Now I feel bad, and my husband said it was kind of uncalled for, but he also laughed so hard when I told him. I get so annoyed when people decide they have some out-of-pocket thing to say to me. And now for the comments. He then says it won't kill you to drink a regular milk, right? It's good for you. Well, he did ask, and you let him know in no uncertain terms that there are horrible stomach and intestinal symptoms that follow. Some people need to hear it and be disgusted in order for them to leave others alone and shut their mouths. What is his problem anyway? You each have your coffee the way that you like it, and that's that. Why would I give a shit if you drink oat milk? As long as you don't force me to drink it, I don't care. Not the a-hole. It actually will kill some of us. Milk allergies are a real thing. This guy was an asshole, and he repeatedly tried to start a fight. When the barista wouldn't give it to him, OP gave him the verbal Hershey squirts. I couldn't think of a more appropriate person to metaphorically poop on. OP, not the a-hole. For real, I won't die if I drink cow's milk, but I will certainly wish I was dead between the cramping, sweating, diarrhea, vomiting, gas, and if I'm really lucky, stomach ulcers. Milk allergies and intolerances are not something to scoff at. We can and do get violently ill. People joke about how lactose intolerant people don't care, and it doesn't stop them, but it absolutely does stop some of us. Teeny portions of dairy and other forms like chocolate and cheese are not as intense and involve gas and mild cramping instead, so I might put up with it. Or at least that is how it is for me. Other people, it may well be different, but someone with a full allergy cannot even have those more often than not. This guy needed a dose of cold hard reality because there are people it will kill, and many it brings up a boatload of suffering too. Good on you, OP, for giving it to him. If he didn't want the details, you should not have tried to start shit, pun intended, in the first place. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for forcing my brother to buy me a new engagement ring plus update? Original post. I'm 26 male proposing to my girlfriend 24 female on our 4th anniversary, September 30th. I've been planning this for about a month, and I picked the ring a couple of weeks ago. The one I got was on sale, so I managed to get it at a surprisingly low price. Last weekend, I told my brother 33 male about my plans and showed him the ring. He informed me that he was proposing to his girlfriend 29 female as well. The next day, my brother came to my apartment while my girlfriend was out. He asked me if he could borrow my ring to propose to his girlfriend. I thought he was joking at first, but no. His plan was to propose to his girlfriend, explain he was using my friend as a placeholder, and then take her to pick her own ring out later. His reasoning was that he didn't want to spend too much money right away in case she didn't say yes. I'd never heard of placeholder rings, so I said no, and the conversation moved on. On Tuesday, he proposed to his girlfriend with my ring. He'd taken it before leaving my apartment. I got distracted at work and didn't notice it was gone until his fiancé sent a picture of herself wearing the ring to our family group chat. I called him to ask about the ring, and he immediately apologized and said he'd keep his promise and give it back to me. But at this point, my girlfriend had seen it, and his fiancé had posted about it on social media, so it was pointless for me to propose using the same ring. We fought about it, and he confessed that while he'd told his fiancé the ring was a placeholder, he didn't tell her where he'd gotten it from. I felt more angry and betrayed about him going behind my back and taking the ring after I said no than the fact that he stole it. I also know his fiancé well enough to know that she wouldn't like to learn her engagement ring had been stolen from me, so I told my brother I'd tell her the truth if he didn't buy me a new engagement ring. He fought against it for a few hours but finally gave up and agreed. We went to a different jewelry store yesterday, and I picked out a new ring. I managed to stay within the price range, but the new one was still $100 more expensive. My brother bought the ring but is still accusing me of being inconsiderate and childish. He is insistent that he would have given me the ring back had I given him the opportunity, and I didn't need to threaten him to spend so much money on me. He's now refusing to talk to me. I don't know how to feel about this anymore. I'd usually talk to my brother about these things, and it's surreal that he's the one that I'm fighting. I can't tell my girlfriend, and many of her friends overlap. The only other person who knows about this is our mom, who's divided. She thinks that what my brother did was wrong, and I'm right to be pissed off at him, but I didn't have the right to stoop as low as I did by threatening his relationship. Am I the a-hole? Edit, accidentally called my girlfriend Fiancé. I am proposing to her on Saturday. I can't tell her about this because I want the proposal to be a surprise. Now for the topic comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. What the F is wrong with him? He stole your ring. Does he have some illness or impairment that would excuse this, or is he just the worst brother in the world? He's actually never done anything like this before. We usually have a great relationship. He was the first person I wanted to tell when I first started dating my girlfriend that I'm proposing to her now. Could he be jealous? It's all rather suspicious, isn't it? The moment you tell him you're going to propose, he suddenly is going to propose first without having it planned out, and then taking your ring. It's like he purposely wants to steal your thunder. Seriously, OP, be prepared for issues possibly going forward with planning, date conflicts, events, choices, etc. Be sure to keep your wedding info between you and your fiancé. ETA, your mom is wrong too. You need to stoop that low because your brother would have dragged this out forever. He needed the motivation. What were you supposed to do? Sit around waiting for him to do the right thing? Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. Not to mention, how would your fiancé feel knowing her ring was used by someone else as a placeholder? Now for the update. First, the good news. My girlfriend and I are engaged. I proposed to her on our anniversary just as I'd planned. She said yes, and we both cried. I love this woman and I can't wait to marry her. Also, my brother's single. A couple of days after my post, my mom called me and apologized. After thinking it through, she realized that while I did threaten his relationship, my brother had brought it upon himself. She confronted him the next day, and he ended up confessing that he wasn't going to propose until I said I was. My brother is older, but I've hit many milestones earlier than him. He never seemed bitter about it. We've always been close and supported each other, which is why I was completely blindsided by what he did. Finding out I was proposing made him panic. He spontaneously said he was going to do so, but freaked out about picking out an engagement ring and devised a plan that, according to him, made sense at the time: use mine and take his girlfriend to buy a new one later on. That plan was ruined when I said no, so he stole my ring. The new plan was to propose with it, take her to buy a new one, find an excuse to visit me the next day, and discreetly return the ring to my apartment. I wasn't even supposed to know it was gone. That plan was also ruined due to his girlfriend's immediate announcement. He knew she was doing it, but not that he'd show the ring. Then he got mad I made him get me a new ring because he'd told his girlfriend he'd get her one too. So his plan to spare himself the effort of choosing an engagement ring would end up making him buy two. Basically, my mom got him to admit the whole engagement was a panic move. She said he already seemed embarrassed when they started talking, but was a wreck by the time that they were done. She told him to apologize to me, and he called me an hour or so later to do so. He seemed sincere. Many of you said his girlfriend deserved to know the truth, and I agree. The only reason I hadn't done so was because I thought that should come from my brother. So I took the opportunity to tell him that if he truly loved her, he'd tell her the truth. He did. I don't know how much of it was said, but she dumped him. He gave me back the first ring and refused my offer to pay him back what he'd spent on the new one. As some of you recommended, I waited 2 days after proposing to tell my fiancé what had happened. She was furious, but reassured me that she loved her ring more than any other. Since the first one was on sale, I can't return it to the store, so we're thinking of selling it. I haven't forgiven my brother, but because he's never done anything like this before, I'm willing to give him another chance. I'm going low contact for now. He'll have to earn my trust back. I really hope he does. I love him and I don't want our relationship to end over what he did. Both my fiance and my mom agree with me on this. There's more I want to add, but the words limit's not helping. I'll try to reply to more comments this time. Thank you all. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for telling my kids that my mother-in-law hates me and that's why I'm not coming on our family trip? My husband, 33 male, and I, 31 female, have 2 8-year-old twin boys. We both work full-time and my husband makes a little more than me, but just a little. We make enough to be financially secure. We can afford all the necessities and rent a 2-bedroom apartment. But we have never traveled aside from the weekend road trips and probably won't be able to in the foreseeable future. My husband's family is quite well off. A few weeks ago, my mother-in-law called my husband and asked if he wanted to bring her kids to go on a trip with her. She apparently wanted to spend some time with her family. Her family, though, doesn't include me. She has always disliked me and never considered me part of her family. Partly because I'm not religious. My husband is, but he respects my lack of belief. And also because she just doesn't like me. My husband knows this and hasn't forced me to interact with her, but he still talks to her occasionally. Anyhow, he told me that my mother-in-law had offered to pay for him and the boys to go on a 2-week trip with her around Thanksgiving time. I'm not invited. She said I'm not really her family, so she doesn't want to pay for me too. This is what she said word for word according to my husband. She knows that we cannot afford for me to pay to come on this luxury trip. She can afford it pretty easily herself. I was pretty upset about this because I'd love a break too, but I understand that the kids will love this, so I said that of course they should go. I tried to be cheerful about it, but my husband understood that I was upset. He asked my mother-in-law specifically to please invite me too, so that we can have a proper family trip. She reiterated that I might be his family, but I'm not her family. And I told him not to push it because I want my kids to have a good time without my husband and mother-in-law fighting during the trip. But I've been feeling pretty angry about the whole thing, so yesterday when my son asked me why I wasn't more excited about the trip, I told him I wasn't coming because his grandma hates me. I said this in a bitter tone. They were pretty upset to hear this. Later, my husband told me that I was an asshole for dumping my feelings on my kids and making them feel guilty about looking forward to the trip. He said I was ruining it for them and also ruining their relationship with my mother-in-law. They're pretty close and that I'm being selfish. So do you think I'm in the wrong? That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.